Courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. My name is Cam Marston. Glad to have you. Thank you for listening. Glad you're along for the ride. What's Working is the radio show / podcast designed to bring you workplace, workforce, and marketplace trends that are influencing the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around you. My goal, as always, is to find guests that can give us some insights into what's going into their world so that we can adopt their insights and use them to make our own world a little bit better. Again, welcome. What's Working is probably the favorite part of my week, is getting to meet these people and interview them and hear them ask these questions. A recent trend on this show is the 10 questions that we ask in segment 4, ranging from what is your favorite business book to your favorite vacation destination. It's a way to get to know our guests a little bit more intimately, I guess, less focused entirely on their business acumen and their business story, and a little bit about them personally, what they're doing when they're off the radar. So you can expect this conversation in segment 4 in this show, as well as shows upcoming. I've really enjoyed adding those questions to the program. Our guest today is Matt Peat. Matt Peat is the Vice President of Sales with Transhield. They make covers. And by covers, I mean, if you're driving down the interstate and you see an 18-wheeler, let's say, going the opposite direction, and on the back of that 18-wheeler is a boat that looks like it's shrink-wrapped, it very well likely be Matt Peat's product that is wrapped around that boat. One of the reasons we'll learn is that the customer expects no weather damage when they get their new boat. But it's not just boats, it's industrial equipment. It's fan blades and turbines, and it's also military equipment for keeping the sensitive electronics in the military equipment. Think of a tank. All the sensitive electronics that are in that tank clean and dust and particle free as it travels from one place to the next. You'll see these perhaps Transhield coverings on those things. And additionally, and the new product for them that we'll get into, which really jumped out at me considering last week's interview with Philip Burton, is the product that they have that goes down on top of concrete that helps the concrete cure, I think may be the word, slowly, and giving that concrete more resilience long term. You know what amazes me, by the way? Here's an aside that was not here in my notes in front of me. We're working today in the year 2023 to figure out how to get concrete to last longer. Yet there's the Appian Way in Rome. There are, what are these things that deliver water for miles and miles and miles in Europe that the Romans invented, where that concrete is 2,000 years old, if not older, and is doing just fine. What did they know about the concrete they made that we don't know today about the concrete we're trying to extend the life of? Aqueducts. There are aqueducts that are still, maybe even in use, that are still standing, made out of some concrete that we still can't figure out ourselves how to get our concrete to last that long. Anyway, Matt Peat is the guest upcoming. He and I have known each other for quite a while. He was actually driving through town to get some Billy's bacon, asked if I could meet him for lunch over there. And ultimately, yeah, he's with his family. They're on the way to New Orleans on a little bit of a vacation, and stayed at my house. And I enjoy my friendship with Matt. You'll get to meet him here momentarily. So interestingly enough, I think you're going to hear some new content forthcoming from me, because I'm going to pull all these advertisers together who've been so loyal to me so long. Angelo De Paola and Buddy Persons, Cajun Mike, who I love being with Cajun Mike, an extraordinary ball of energy, that guy. Paul Lewis with Roy Lewis Construction, Allison Horner, are going to try to get them together and say, all right, what are the issues you as employers, as business people are facing? This is in a conference room somewhere. And if you can give me those issues, what I'm going to do is try to find the guests that can address those issues, interview them on the show on your behalf. Simple little value add that I can perhaps do for my advertisers is get them together, have them meet one another, share their challenges, and let me go find some solutions that I think will be of help to them. So you can expect something like that in the coming weeks as I work to gather these people and understand what their challenges are. If you're interested in sharing the show, go to whatsworkingcam.com where you can forward it along. I don't want you to forget that this is also a podcast, and you can also find it on YouTube. When we come back, Matt Peat.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please go forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio today. My guest is in the studio with me from the state of Michigan. He's driving through. He's become a friend of mine, and we're going to talk about this company that he works for, Matt Peat. Thank you for your time, and welcome to What's Working.
Thank you, Cam. Glad to be here.
I'm interested in I've known you for 7 or 8 years now. The product that your company manufactures has always been of interest to me, but now's the time, the excuse to get into the weeds about it. Since ancient times, I would guess, people have covered their valuables with some sort of material fabric to protect it from the elements. Tell me about Transhield.
Well, Transhield was developed to cover products to get them from point A to point B. So when we work with our customers, we know that they're shipping something valuable from their factory. They want to get it from the factory to the field, to the dealer, to the distributor, to the manufacturing facility that's going to assemble the rest of it. They want it to be factory fresh. They want it to get there just like it came off the factory line.
What was the origin of the product? Obviously, you want it to be, whatever product is, you want it delivered on site looking brand new. Where did it go from, hey, let's wrap it with a tarp, to let's create a specific fabric? How did that transition get made?
The gentleman that invented the product, Greg Tote, he was inventor, thinker, always working with stuff. He was also in the painting division that was painting parts and shipping them. He always noticed there was problems when they were in transportation. They were rubbing together. They were rubbing against corrugated and other parts, and they were causing damage.
Yeah.
And he was having issues with that damage. So he started toying around, the mad scientist type stuff, and came up with a product. And at some point around then, that was about 95, I joined the company, and we started looking for broader markets.
Give me an example of the type of products that I'm looking at a presentation you sent me in advance. The types of products that Transhield covers includes what?
We are large in the OEM boat business, so boat manufacturers. We sell into pod manufacturers that might make a bathroom pod or an office pod that they manufacture in a building, in a facility, and ship across the country. We work in the HVAC, so the large coolers, chillers that you might see on the top of a large building for air conditioning. We sell into power generation, large engines, large turbines. There's anything large that ships over the road on a flatbed, too big to fit inside a Conestoga trailer or a wall trailer.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a picture here, and the one that I'm so familiar with is it's registered or listed on this document here, the shrinkable fabric, and it's wrapping a boat.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon to see a boat going down the road on the back of an 18-wheeler shrink wrapped.
Right.
And that's what it is.
That is, to a degree, that's what we manufacture. However, ours does not come in roll form. Ours will come in a pre-manufactured cover. So when you receive as a manufacturer, as a user of our product, when you receive it, it will come as a cover that's pre-fit. So you cut out the labor of trying to fold and tuck. So a little bit like a fitted bed sheet versus a flat bed sheet.
Oh, I see. So I'm a manufacturer of a boat. I've got a 22-foot center console or something like that, a 22-foot runabout. And once it's been measured and kind of measured, I guess, thoroughly, you customize this thing and make those things for that boat over and over again and send them to me in my manufacturing location.
In your manufacturing location, you install the cover, you tie it down, you shrink it down. It does still shrink. It gets to be a tight fit so that it can be aerodynamic. So if you're doing something from a small craft, watercraft, all the way up to a 60-foot module that you're going to stack together to make a building, we can provide a cover that is pre-fit.
Is your competition no cover? Is your competition a tarp and a bungee cord?
Well said, because sometimes when people say, what is your biggest competition? I say nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not to sound arrogant, because that is our biggest competition. People are choosing to do nothing. And when you have a picky customer, and not our customer, but our customer's customer, that expects it to arrive just like your iPhone came out of the box.
Right.
They expect a big reveal. They're expecting perfection. Mm-hmm. And that's what we can help prevent Mother Nature from being the problem.
So I'm looking at this picture of this boat, this runabout that is wrapped in there. How does the shrinking work? I back in the day, I wrapped presents for a local store here, and I would wrap them and then put a foil around them, a kind of a clear foil, and use a hairdryer, and it would literally shrink it to help the delivery. Is there something like that in the process?
It's a industrial heat tool. You wouldn't want to use it as a hairdryer. You might not have any hair left.
Right.
But it's an industrial heat tool that runs on natural gas or propane, throws out a lot of BTUs, and can do the job very quickly.
And I notice a photograph here of it wrapping what looks like a military vehicle. Oh, it's a tank. I can see the turret.
Right. So we have a military division as well. We sell to all branches of the military, including some foreign militaries. But the idea there is not transportation, but preservation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to preserve the product, and readiness is the biggest thing. When you have Mother Nature going and causing problems with dry rot, corrosion, all the things that can happen when things sit outside, that's what we can help prevent.
So I'm imagining all these pieces of military equipment sitting in the Middle East, wind, lots of sand. This would prevent the sand from getting up in the gears and reducing the life of this piece of equipment. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we have covers deployed all over the world. Top decks of Navy ships. We've got Coast Guard. There's rolling wheeled vehicles and track vehicles all over the world that are covered and protected with the Transhield product.
Tell me about the actual fabric itself. Is it breathable? Is it, because this has got to be, I also see in my head pulling some sort of this fabric off and having the humidity in it and everything soaking wet, which would absolutely be the inverse of what you want.
Right. The material itself does have a breathability. It's a film and non-woven. So the non-woven will be like your golf shirt. It will wick away moisture from the product, try to keep it dry. We also put a corrosion inhibitor, a VCI as they call it, vapor corrosion inhibitor, within our product so that then that prevents corrosion regardless of the humidity level. Uh-huh. So trying to dry it out is one thing, but also while it is potentially humid, preventing that corrosion from happening.
So there are a lot of boat owners in this part of the world. There are a lot of boat owners in your part of the world, in northern Indiana, southern Michigan, all the lakes there. And I know, and I drive around the neighborhoods around here, and you'll see boats in driveways, and you think that's just, they need to cover that thing. It's filling up with water in the back or whatever. And you told me this morning that you all were selling these covers on Amazon?
We have the covers on Amazon, our Transhield page that's on Amazon. You can get them there. You can also get them on anythingboating.com, which is another outlet for our covers.
Yeah, yeah. And they're obviously not built per order. There are standard sizes based on the size of the boat.
Pretty much. It's going to be a universal fit cover that will allow you to cover the boat. We also sell strapping and poles so that you can tent it up. And then we're not expecting the average Joe or the aftermarket customer to have the heat tool. So if we can train them to correctly install and tie down the cover and prevent pooling water and snow without the heat tool, that's the goal.
Yeah. The snow is not an issue so much down this neck of the woods.
Not so much, but we might get a little up north.
Yeah. Transhield was founded in 1994, and I know from knowing you that there have been many transactions of the business since. Obviously, this business is sexy. My wife hates it when I use that word. She says I overuse it, but the business is attractive to investors. Tell me a little bit about that.
In 96, we were sold from a locally owned company to a family firm in Norway, and they held us until 2014. In fact, they held us for quite a while. It's family office, so a little bit different than normal private equity. In 2014, private equity took us over, and they held us longer than their typical cycle. But just last year in 2022, we were rolled again, owned now by Patrick Industries out of Elkhart, Indiana, and they are proven so far to be a very good partner.
So you're based in Elkhart.
We are based in Elkhart, Indiana.
So the company began in Elkhart.
Yep.
The ownership went overseas to Scandinavia, went to a investment group, and now your ownership is back in Elkhart.
That's correct.
Been around the world and back.
A little bit, yeah. And when we were overseas, they did start an office in Europe, and the intent was to sell into the automotive market. Which is interesting because I am glad to say when you see a Corvette leaving Bowling Green, Kentucky with a cover on it, it's not our cover, but we invented that industry.
That's kind of a kiss your sister compliment there.
It's a little different.
That's right. Hey, you see that cover? That's not mine, but we invented the idea.
That's right.
Yeah. What did these investors see, particularly the Norwegian company? I guess they saw a product that should be moved into the automotive space. And for whatever reason, they said, and you told me you lived over in Scandinavia for a while. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I lived over there trying to help replicate the production that we had created in Mexico over in the eastern part of Europe, Romania, and Latvia. And that was an exciting opportunity for me. I was younger, got to see a good portion of the world.
Yeah.
And then when I moved back, I was able to apply some of what I've learned over there. But I kind of migrated myself back into the sales role and head of sales at this point.
So is Mexico still part of the company? Is the actual fabric manufactured in Mexico?
The fabric is not. We have a lamination line in Del Rio, Texas, which is directly across the border from our manufacturing in Acuña.
Yeah.
On both sides, we have 60,000 square feet, brand new buildings, air conditioned. At this point, we have about 350 people in Mexico on 2 shifts manufacturing our product.
Really? That's a lot of stuff. We'll be back after this break. I'm with Matt Peat, Vice President of Sales. Did I say that right?
Yep.
For Transhield, a remarkable product with a remarkable story. Be right back. Hey, this is Cam Marston. My What's Working radio show has given me a front row seat to what's going on in today's workplace and workforce. I'm taking what I've learned and delivering it as a live presentation. If your company, team, or association is looking for a speaker to kick off or wrap up your event, check out my presentations at my website, cammarston.com, or find me on YouTube to watch some sample videos. You can expect actionable and relevant content delivered with lots of humor. On my site, you can find my client list and testimonials. I welcome your calls and your emails. Reach out. Let's find a way to deliver fresh, thought-provoking, actionable content to your event.
This is Trey Langus with Transworld Business Advisors. I help business owners sell their businesses from mom-and-pop size to large mergers and acquisitions. We have a huge buyer database looking for quality businesses to buy right now. Confidentiality guaranteed. If you're a business owner considering an exit within the next few years, let's talk. Again, I'm Trey Langus. Find me at Transworld Business Advisors or Google my name.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio. Matt Peat sits across from me. He's the vice president of sales with a company called Transhield. If you're interested in a boat cover, I know who my listeners are. If you're interested in a boat cover that's better than a piece of, a tarp or something like that, go online and enter Transhield. Am I shamelessly promoting Matt's company? Yes, I am. Go in line, enter Transhield, go to Amazon, enter Transhield, and you'll see the different quality of this item versus the ones that perhaps you're familiar with. Matt, when you sent me some information to prepare, you sent me something on a product called Top Cure. I was in this very same studio yesterday with a gentleman who's building logistics parks, and he talks about the extraordinary size of the building and the concrete on the floor. Top Cure is apparently something to do with your product and concrete, and I'll ask you to take it from there.
Okay. Well, Top Cure was developed because it uses very similar products as our other Transhield materials. It's got an outside film. We are using a lot of film when we manufacture Transhield covers. And by film, I mean blown film, so polyethylene film like you might find people would call visqueen. We laminate that to a nonwoven, which makes up our cover materials. When looking for more products to put into our lamination production line, we decided to venture into other things. Top Cure was the other one because it also uses a film and a nonwoven lamination. So what we learned within the concrete industry is concrete drying out too quickly is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It causes the concrete to effectively not be as strong. And so when you have heavy traffic, forklift traffic, think about the inside of a warehouse where there's heavy traffic, literally 24 hours, you want that concrete to cure harder. So in order to cure it harder, you want to keep it hydrated. You want to keep it wet for 7 days. 7 days is kind of the industry standard for what they call wet curing. Uh-huh. And so wet curing can be done a couple of different ways. You can pour the slab, and once everything is completely completed with finishing, you can flood it with water. You could put a couple inches of water on it. It's going to prevent evaporation and allow it to cure at a slower rate. There's a couple other ways. There's spray. You can spray it down with a chemical, or you can cover it up with a cover. And our cover is similar to others that may be in the marketplace, but we took and tried to make it a little bit better. Yeah. And so what we've created is Top Cure. You pour the concrete, you hydrate the concrete or pour down some water, and then you roll these rolls of material that are 10 foot wide, 250 feet long over the concrete and let it sit. While it is sitting versus pooling or anything else, you can still bring the other trades in. You can still have electricians working overhead and plumbers working overhead for sprinklers and people in and out, scissor lift across the floor while this stuff is still covering the floor and curing the concrete.
So that's amazing. You could pour the concrete, cover it with this Top Cure product, and work on it. You may not be able to do a full load, a big heavy forklift, but you can still access the concrete. It's not as if the job site must be shut down for 7 days.
Right. You can still work on it. You can still get things done, and the concrete is still curing to meet the ASTM standard that the spec calls out for.
Are there others making this product? I know very little of concrete world. Are there others making something like this? Is the competition nothing like it was in the previous one?
There are other companies in the marketplace, and when doing our research, we came up with a few unique properties that ours offers, and we wanted to make a better product, not a Me Too product.
So I'm going to take this question in a different way, going away from product, and this was a request given to me not long ago. You started in 1994, is that right?
That is right.
You've been with the company as it's changed hands many times.
Correct.
You continue to, as the vice president of sales, very well positioned for the future, I would guess. There are people listening that are wondering, how do I get promoted in my own company? How do I develop leadership in my own company? How do I become indispensable, which it sounds like you have, in my own company? React to that for me. Let's go. The product is fascinating. We could spend all day talking about it. But how have you remained so valuable in your organization when it's changed hands so many times?
That's a pretty good question. I know you're in the business of asking good questions, but I would answer that with no. Continue to learn. Never know everything. Always learn something. Continue to always be there. Being there is either being there physically or being there when opportunity comes up. Be the first guy with your hand in the air to chase it down.
Yeah.
Those are big things for me, and I don't do those to self-promote or to climb the ladder. I do those because that's just who I am. It's ingrained in me to continue to work. The other thing is continue to educate, continue to try to understand potentially industry trends, trends within the marketplaces that you want to sell to, and try to understand not what you want to sell people, but what people might want.
Yeah.
And then trying to, as far as climbing the ladder of success, I always try to think about what my future is. I'm not looking at what next week looks like, but I'm looking at the next 1, 3, and 5 years.
Yeah.
I had in the past written plans that will tell me where I'm going to be and what I want to be, but they're always in my head and they're ever changing because at every junction you come up with new opportunity or you fail at an opportunity and you have the opportunity to learn by the school we've all gone to at some point, School of Hard Knocks.
Sure. So at some point as Transhield changed hands a number of times, somebody within the company said to somebody that was on the purchasing side of your company, you can't get rid of this guy. And I would suspect that it had something to do with, and I hate the term, but internal politics. Comment for me, if you will, on internal politics, the moving around in the organization, because many of the listeners are mid-level managers and they have to play that game. What do you think about that?
You can't get rid of a number of us at Transhield. We've created a really nice culture, a family-oriented culture where we work hard, play hard. We work hard, and sometimes you need to be more there for your family than anything. So our company president, my direct report, has been there a year longer than I have.
You report to him.
I report to him.
He's been a year longer.
A year longer.
Yeah.
And then the team that we work with the most, you've got a guy 18 years, you got a guy 17 years. My sales team that is the oldest guys have been there 18, 17, and 16 years. The tenure of the people that have been running the company is pretty impressive, more than you'll see in a lot of companies. Partly culture, partly treating people right and fairly. By right, it doesn't always mean money. It's about being fair. Somebody needs to talk about something. Somebody needs to handle something on a personal level, or somebody just needs to know that you're there for them. We're always there.
Yeah. So there's an argument that could be made, and I actually heard a clip from Malcolm Gladwell. I have not heard the episode, but I heard the clip. And he said, you're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell, the author and the author and the writer of all these business articles. Anyway, he said, you limit your career by not changing jobs. And I don't know what his exact experience is with changing jobs. What do you think about that? You've worked, it sounds like, if I understand this correctly, you've worked for one company since you got into the workplace.
So I can't comment on what he's saying because I haven't left. And right. I've had opportunity to leave, and I also am a slow and steady. There's no quick win. There's no lottery in this world of life. At least there's no guaranteed lottery in the world of life, but there is a guarantee that if you put your head down and work hard, good stuff will happen. And my dad always said hard work pays off. And my dad worked for 37 years for the same company. Hard work pays off. And you just continue grinding. Now, the comment very well could be true. I could have climbed multiple ladders of success and be in a different position, but I don't regret a single thing.
Yeah. So you're not the one that says job hopping is more fruitful. It doesn't resonate with you.
It doesn't resonate with me, but I also have been treated fairly every bit of the way.
Oh, that's a great testament to the company and to the owners and to the transitions. So yesterday, you and I bumped into a guy that you and I both know. You've heard him interviewed on the radio show, and he was telling me offline that they're really struggling with finding people. and they're going through extreme measures to try to find people. Is that something Transhield is dealing with?
We have multiple levels of needs for people. The ones I'm more directly involved in are finding sales folks for that industrial marketplace, which is selling into anything that's not marine or military. Mm-hmm. We're trying to expand that. It is hard to find somebody because they're either very successful already and you got to pay them a bunch of money to switch over, or they're green, new, and need a lot of hand holding. So it has been a challenge. There are folks out there. It's different than when I was doing this and looking 15, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
For people.
Yeah.
It has changed. The dynamic has changed. I think there's a level of income that people think they need, which may not match up with what I think they need.
That's a delicate way of saying your request for income and your skill level don't match.
Very well could be.
Yeah. What about the manufacturing part? I think you said it was in Del Rio. You guys got all you need down there?
I think that between Del Rio, which is where we do our warehousing and manufacture our roll goods, our material, our laminate. I think it's fairly good. There's always a need here or there. In Acuña in Mexico, it's a large manufacturing area with maquiladoras, so there is a pool there. However, it is not as easy to hire in that area as it used to be.
Oh, really? Is that a labor shortage there as well?
There has been historically. I think we're doing fairly well now at this point. And then in Elkhart, Indiana, where we have our main manufacturing, always a challenge in that area.
Elkhart is such a fascinating part of the country. Maybe we can get into that a little bit when we get back from break. You're listening to What's Working. We're going to ask him the 10 questions when we come back.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio. Matt Peat sits across from me. He's the vice president of sales for Transhield. They make a remarkable product that covers valuable things from your boat to our tanks for the U.S. Army and the guns and the machines that sit on the decks of our naval warships, all kinds of fascinating things. And I want to get into, this is the 10 questions segment here, Matt, and I've really begun enjoying this segment. But before we do, I've learned a little bit about Elkhart, Indiana. as a result of knowing you, as a result of knowing some of the colleagues that you and I know together that manufacture manufacture boats in Elkhart. Real quick, tell the listeners what makes Elkhart so unique.
Elkhart is the RV capital of the world. A lot of the RVs that you see on the road, the one that I'm driving through your great state of Alabama, was from Elkhart, is from Elkhart. So it's a large recreation area because there's quite a few boat manufacturers in that area. So when you think about people going out and having fun in RVs and boats, in all likelihood, it came from that area.
Yeah, and it is a bellwether for the economy. So when the economy's great, Elkhart, you can't find an employee everywhere because every boat manufacturer and RV manufacturer is jamming. And when the economy begins to shift, the unemployment goes up in Elkhart. It's like a litmus test for what's coming. And every savvy politician, I'm guessing, in the past 40 years has come through Elkhart to campaign.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's get into these 10 questions real quick, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Matt Peat. Matt, number one, what's your favorite business book?
So I've read a number of books. I like the sales side of books. So Lee Saul's sales differentiation, Keenan gap sales, which is how you sell to the gap. And then Patrick Lencioni, anything he writes.
What is the gap?
The gap is where you live right now in your current state and what your future state looks like.
Okay.
So as a buyer, you know that you have this problem. As a buyer or production manager or anything, you know where you want to be. But in between there is a chasm. It's a gap. You want to try to figure out how to get past that gap. And as a salesperson, you want to exploit that gap to try to show how you can provide a difference between your current state and your future state.
You understand where they are, you understand where they're going to be, and then you help them fill that gap.
That's correct.
Interesting. I've not heard of that one. Good. Who's the author of that, The Gap?
He only goes by Keenan.
Keenan. Bono, Sting, Keenan, Prince. Now the business book people are taking on the one name thing. All right, number two, what one trend in the marketplace excites you about your business?
This is strange, but it's the customer pickiness.
Oh, really?
How picky a customer is. So how detail-oriented is the customer? And when I say the customer, it's generally not my customer, but my potential customer's customer. Mm-hmm. They expect a product to arrive at their facility, depending on whether or not it's a boat dealer or if it's a installer of a HVAC unit. They expect it to come in without Mother Nature and road grime and salt destroying it. They're asking for solutions. We are there to help with those solutions. So that is a trend that they're expecting better.
It reminds me of the unpacking of the iPhone, like you mentioned earlier. Everybody wants to get it and slowly go through that for the great reveal. And that pickiness is a positive thing for your product. That's interesting. That's great. Number three, what one trend in the marketplace worries you?
I hate to answer this the way maybe others have, but I think the cost of products.
Yeah.
We are in the world of manufacturing things for people to buy. When you think about manufacturing things for people to buy, it's boats, it's RVs, cars, but it's also groceries. And that person that you're selling to is going out, and the necessity is that grocery. The necessity is making sure the house stays up. And they can buy less of those necessities, then it's going to make them buy less of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it does concern me. The cost of products continues to escalate.
Yeah. You're right. The number have answered that same way. It's a common answer and a common worry, which brings us to number four. The biggest business mistake you've made.
The biggest business mistake that I think I've made is over the length of the career, not being a little bit more risky, not making more mistakes.
Yeah.
We learn from our mistakes. We try to minimize the risk of the mistake. So certainly you want to study before you dive, but not taking enough chances, being a little bit conservative, maybe a little bit like why I've been with the same company for almost 28 years.
It's both a good thing and a bad thing.
It's good and bad. Consistent.
Yeah. That's an interesting answer. The biggest business mistake you make is not making more mistakes, is not taking more chances, which leads to more mistakes, which leads to more lessons, which means to greater efficacy at the job you do.
I said earlier, fail forward.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to fail, but make sure you learn something so you're actually falling forward.
Good. Number 5, your favorite news source for business content.
So news source is a tough one because I don't believe the news all that well, but I do.
You and everybody else in the world these days.
I do listen to a lot of things. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to your show. I listen to business podcasts, things that help me or challenge me or get the creative juices flowing so you can then maybe implement them in something or share ideas with your team or look at things differently. So usually it's a podcast. It's pre-recorded. It's something that I can listen to on demand as needed.
Other than this fantastic show, give me one business podcast that you like. Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Mm-hmm. I like the history of business. So I will listen to Business Movers or Business Wars, which are two different ones that are on Wondery that I listen to. And it allows me to see Nike versus Adidas.
Right.
So you're going into history, but you're listening to some of the different things and the battle for being number one. I like that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You told me business podcast, and I want to remain focused here. It reminds me of something you told me about your break room. You guys did something unique there, a part of a culture, Broken Eggs.
The Broken Egg Cafe, as we call it. Jim Glick, our company president, wanted to define our culture a little bit better, a little bit more family, a little bit more fun, a little bit more open. And so we created this wonderful space in our break room. We enlarged the break room. We took a few sales offices out because sales guys need to be in the field.
Yeah.
And we made a comfortable space for people to come in. We called it the Broken Egg because our founder used to say you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You've got to be willing to fail forward, which is where that comes from. But also, we will do company parties there. We'll do 4-ish a year where we get the team together, and it's the executive team, it's the management team, it's also the people manufacturing the product. We'll play cornhole. We'll have pumpkin carving contest. Just have fun as a team to try to just make sure that the family environment stays alive.
Part of that workplace culture, which continues to become so important. All right, moving on down the list. From which generation do you wish you had more employees?
Me. Gen X.
Gen Xers.
I hate to say that, but it's the kind of, here's a project, I want you to run with it and get it done. I'm not going to helicopter over you.
Yeah. And they typically respond to that. Leave me alone. Let me do my work. All right. The generation you enjoy working with the most.
It's probably not me because then it's my idea and I'm a little strong-headed. So the generation or the older portion of my generation is great.
Yeah.
Or the fringe of the boomer.
Yeah.
They will run with the projects, but they like to have the meetings. The generation under us, which I believe is going to be the millennials.
Correct.
The millennials are great too. They're training, they're up and coming, and they're learning, and I'm learning stuff from them, which has been interesting.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of reverse mentor programs, which kind of formalize the fact that you're going to learn from somebody younger than you. They do have something to teach. And those reverse mentoring programs have historically been great retention tools as well. All right, a little more personal. It's Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. What are you most likely to be doing?
Depends on the time of year. But basically, if it's summer, Saturday, we're probably grilling out. We're probably maybe I'm firing up the coals and I'm getting the boat ready to take the girls out tubing. We live on a small lake in southern Michigan, so we will be on the boat and tubing. If it's winter, I'm probably going to be in the woods, hoping a deer will cross my crosshairs and I can haul something home that evening.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this last night. You're not a big cigar smoker on the deer stand like I am, are you?
Yeah, I like to be quiet and scent-free.
and competitive and in the game versus me that looks like quiet and goes, golly, it's got to be a deer with a suicide mission for me to pull this trigger.
Right.
Okay, more. And I love these questions. They are interesting to me. Number 9, you've just won the lottery for $500 million. What's the first thing you're buying?
Muscle car.
Really?
69 Camaro.
You can see yourself. Is this part of the 1, 3, or 5 year plan? Is the 6-year Camaro?
It's in the 5-year plan, but it perpetually stays in the 5-year plan. No, I've always wanted something, a gas guzzler that would be fun to just cruise around.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have an airplane.
Yeah.
Those would be fun things, but I would probably do some stuff around the house too. You'd give back to the family that supports me as well.
Sure. Yeah. All the practical answers. But what I want is that 69 Camaro answer.
Yeah.
That's the one that's interesting to me. All right. Similar question. You just won the lottery for $500 million. What is the first organization you're donating any amount of money to?
So first of all, I would probably be smart about the money, set up a trust fund, and allow myself to donate to multiple organizations over a long period of time. But the first thing that I would do is I would start an organization, and I would call it, this comes from my wife, Katie, we'd call it the Lending Library, or we'd call it the Lending Locker, but it would be equipment for special needs kids that they could come in and grab the equipment. They could grab the size they need for that given phase in life and use it.
What would that equipment be?
Walkers, standers, wheelchairs. Katie would know more, but all the things that you need when you maybe don't have full use of your legs. But kids grow. Kids they need new shoes. They need new sizes. So these things that are adjustable to given lengths, and then they have to find more.
Yeah.
And generally the parents, it's a very expensive endeavor.
Expensive, yes.
And if we could have a facility fund all the equipment, and people could come in, get what they need, and come back, and it would be at zero cost, that would be a great opportunity for our area, and potentially it travels. Beyond. I don't know.
That's a wonderful answer. Last one, your favorite vacation destination?
Destination. This I thought about a lot because I've been to places, a lot of places with my travels. I've been to places alone. I've got a lot of selfies of myself doing really cool things. I've been to places with my wife, and I've been to places with my children. And I'll have to say, it's a little bit more who you're with than where you are.
Yeah.
And yeah. I hate to dodge the question a little bit. I mean, seeing the Roman Colosseum is great, but seeing it with my wife is even better.
I've traveled a lot like you and have seen some wonderful places. And the only thing that goes back in my head is I wish there was someone here to share this with me. And so I agree with your answer. Matt, Pete, where can people find more about you?
Well, you can find more about our company at Transhield. That's TRANSHIELD-USA.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Matt Peat, MATTPEAT. Reach out to me, connect. Love to get to know you.
Excellent. Folks, Matt Peat here from Michigan. Business is based in Elkhart, Indiana. He drove through Mobile on his way to New Orleans to get some bacon from Billy's, who's been a guest on the show, and we had lunch there yesterday. He's become a friend. We've worked together over the past 7 or 8 years at an event for the Marine Leadership Alliance. It's good to have you here, Matt. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Cam.
We'll be back after this break with segment 5. You're listening to What's Working.
This is Trey Langus with Transworld Business Advisors. You've worked for years to grow and build your business, and now you're considering an exit strategy. Selling your business can be intimidating and complex. Let our local team at Transworld Business Advisors help you. We are the largest business brokerage in the world, and I will personally and confidentially guide you through this process. I'm Trey Langus. Find me at Transworld Business Advisors or Google my name.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Again, thank you for being along for the ride. And I really want to thank Matt Peat for joining me in the studio. It's interesting to me. Well, here's something that I've learned that I love that this show is doing for me. And perhaps you're getting some sense of this, and that is the connections that we're able to make due to the show. So Matt and I have known each other for years. I am the MC at a conference that he is a part of, and I've been in that role for about the past 7 years. We had to stop during COVID, but been a part of that role for the past 7 years. And he said, and it was through, that's how he and I met. He became aware of this show, and it was on one of the shows that I interviewed Billy Stitt of Billy's Bacon, and he ordered some Billy's Bacon, and I loved it. Hey, Matt's ordering from Billy. I like that. I'm helping them both out. And then Matt said, hey, we got to go to New Orleans. Why don't we go through Fairhope and eat at Billy's restaurant and pick up some bacon and perhaps meet the man? He called me and I said, I'd love to meet you for lunch. So let me see if I can get Billy if he's available. And Billy gave us a tour yesterday of the restaurant and how he smokes the bacon. And it's these connections. I really enjoy making these connections. Later in the day, yesterday, we were at the pool and up watched Buddy Persons. Buddy Persons has been a guest on the show. He's an advertiser on the show. And I'm able to connect Matt and Buddy. And Matt quickly explains what he does to Buddy. Buddy says, I think we may have a need for something like that. Would you be in touch with me? And again, another connection for it. And one of the things that we're now up to 270 something episodes of this show. And one of the things that I'm loving the most about it is the connections. Meeting these people has enabled me to do, but one to the other, even two guests on the show, whatever it may be, really an enjoyable part of the show. Transhield-USA. Check them out. I got my father, my brothers, and I share a small boat, and it stays under my brother's garage. Now we're going to see if we can't get one of Matt's covers for it that'll enable us to keep it in different places, not so much a burden to my brother in his garage. And check them out, if you will. So the show continues to run well. I want to make sure we thank the people who are so important. That is the show sponsors. And I want to thank the advertisers. I want to make sure I get in John Thompson's name. He's the show's producer. Ion Digital. He gives me an additional 10 to 15 IQ points that I don't deserve every week by removing my ands, my ums, my you-knows, etc. And I know it's a lot of work for him to edit all those things out. Please take a look for us on social media. You can find me, Cam Marston, or you may have the need to add the numeral 1 at Cam Marston and numeral 1. And by the way, if you want a copy of one of the chapters of my book called What Works, go to my website and enter your name into the place on the bottom of the homepage. You'll be on the mailing list or the email list, and we will automatically send you the first chapter or one of the chapters of my book. I forget which one it is. What Works, by the way, is the show that highlights the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. It was a COVID project when the traditional work of the seminars and the MCs, et cetera, had to slow down. We started writing what the lessons learned from the book were. And it's called What Works. You can find it on Amazon. If you want a chapter, go to my website, give me your email address. It'll generate that chapter and send it to you automatically. That will wrap us up for this week. Thanks again, Matt Peat. We'll have another show next week. Thanks for listening. As you likely know, this show originates as a radio show broadcast across the state of Alabama, and it continues to grow in both radio listeners and market. After it's formatted for radio, we then turn it into this podcast. Please share it with those you think would find it interesting, and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube page where you can leave messages and your thoughts and your comments, and I'll certainly get back in touch. Finally, if you're a fan of the show, please offer a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find my book called What Works on Amazon.com. In it, I highlight the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. Mind you, they're not the top 10 best episodes, they're the top 10 best ideas. Many times the same ideas are brought up again and again by different guests, and we dig into those ideas in such a way that they'll be easily applicable for your business. Simply go to Amazon and enter my name, and you'll find What Works as well as my other books. Chapter titles include How to Find a Niche, Innovation, Building Teams, and so forth. To learn more about the workshops and seminars I offer, go to cammarston.com. There you can view clips of my work, view workshop titles, view my reviews, case studies, customer lists. It's all there. If you'd like a free copy of one of the chapters of my book, enter your email address at the bottom of the homepage at cammarston.com. And from that site, you can email me directly. I always love to hear from you. You'll also find me on social media. Find Cam Marston on all the social media platforms, and you may need to enter the numeral 1. There's one other Cam Marston out there, and that numeral 1 distinguishes me from him from time to time. So if you're unsure if it's me or not, enter that numeral 1 after my name, and it should do the trick. On a more personal and less professional side, I record weekly commentaries that air across Alabama on Alabama Public Radio twice each day on Fridays, called Keeping It Real. They've won statewide and national awards. They're simple observations on the world as it goes on around me, and they're only a few minutes long. They're a passion. You can find them on the same podcast app you're using to listen to this. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on this podcast or the radio show, reach out. I've worked hard to cultivate a specific listener, and I can tell you all about them, and I have many different options for helping you reach them. Thanks again for listening. We'll have another episode available soon.